Hey there, my name is Wayne Hedlund with Wayne Hedlund Consulting. In this video, I am going to share some tips and tricks related to subtasks in Asana. So if you're using Asana or you've been using it for some time, you know that sometimes subtasks can be a very important part of what you're doing. Now, I know some organizations and clients, they overuse subtasks way too much and it's subtask heavy and subtasks. And I don't actually recommend that. There's a balance that you need to find. And then I know some organizations that are kind of afraid of subtasks or they don't realize that, Asana has actually made a lot of updates to make subtasks friendlier for us to use. But in today's video, I just want to share with you some of my favorite cool tips and tricks, or maybe even hacks, um, that if you once you understand and know how to use them, can really streamline and create more efficiency and organization for your team. So we're going to just dive in and see some different things that we can do in Asana with Subtasks. So I've created a project here called Subtasks Tips and Tricks, and you can see a number of sections that we'll use to kind of walk through some cool things that we can do. Now, I'm sure there are other things that maybe we'll create another video in the future with some more other ideas, but for today, let's focus on these. So the first one, adding sections to subtasks. This is kind of something that a lot of people don't realize can really help just kind of organize work. So, for instance, I have this post article to company blog. It's just a standard task that has a series of subtasks associated with it. However, let's say that we decided we wanted to post article to company blog, and that's something that we do maybe twice a week for our organization. And we have these subtasks, but we really would love to be able to organize these subtasks into sections like planning, executing, and publishing, right? So the trick is we can create sections in here and then organize the tasks into the sections. How do we do that? So go ahead and click on a subtask in the right panel here, the detail pane for the task. And then you're going to go ahead and just click tab tab in for new. If you forget, you can also see the shortcut right here. It says tab in for new. That's how you create a section here in the main section, but we're going to use that same shortcut right over here when we're looking at the detail pane. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my cursor in here somewhere, tab in, and I'm going to create a new section called planning. I'm going to click tab in again and say executing and tab in one more time. And that would be publishing, right? And so now I can go ahead and move and drag and drop these around where I want them to be so that all of my tasks are organized well. Of course, you can do this when you turn into a task template and in some other areas as well. So now these are kind of well organized. Now, these sections don't follow all the same rules that Asana has set up for sections that are in the main project. They're mostly just for visualizing tasks in a way that makes sense. Here's another example. Let's say I have a task that is a reference task for a client. I don't have Applebee's as one of my clients, but let's say that I did. I can see a number of tasks that I have in here, but it looks like they just don't all make sense. That's because I really need some sections. So you might have a section called reference and another section called action items, and then one more section called accounting. And now we can kind of go ahead and just kind of clean up the work that we're doing. I could see there's a number of invoices that we have in here, maybe just for reference sake, they might even be already paid, or maybe one of them has not been paid yet, and we want to just track that. And then we've got some reference tasks that kind of just tell us some information about the client, and then of course some tasks that are actually actionable that need to get done. All right, so that is an example of adding sections to subtasks. Next up, turning tasks into subtasks. All right, there's a few different ways that we can approach this. So for instance, let's say again I'm client based and I have a client, Pixar Animation Studios, and I realized someone went ahead and put a task in here, send proposal for that new movie. In fact, it was my friend Joy, who evidently is associated with Pixar. And so I can click inside of this, parent level task, and I actually want to turn this task into a subtask underneath Pixar Animation Studio. So to do that, in the details pane off to the side when I select the task, I'm just going to click these three dots and click convert to subtask, and then I'm going to search for the task that I want to put it in. There it is right there, Pixar Animation Studios. And now it has been moved. And you're like, well, wait, it's still sitting up here as a parent task, right? So now this task actually lives in two locations. It lives both as a subtask and as a parent task. So I don't really need it out here into in the main project. So now I'm going to actually, believe it or not, remove the subtask from the project right here by just clicking the X, and it's going to remove it from my list. I can still see it just fine inside Pixar Animation Studios. There it is right there. And when my friend Joy finishes that, she'll mark that as complete as normal. Now, another example here, and being able to do this in bulk. Let's say I have a task that says make macaroni and cheese. Most of us probably don't need the instructions, but someone went ahead and put a series of tasks associated with that. So we really want these to live inside the make macaroni and cheese. So what I'm actually going to do in this scenario is, instead of individually putting them in, I'm actually going to highlight them all at once. And I have another video that explains how to highlight a bunch of tasks in bulk. So I'm going to select all those tasks in bulk, and I'm going to use this bulk bar right here and the three dots and convert all those tasks to a subtask. And where are we going to put it? We're going to put it in make macaroni and cheese. Now, you notice when I selected it, it didn't work, because sometimes I notice it's a little tricky. I have to kind of select it again for one reason or another. So you just make sure that it went in. But now I can see all those tasks have been turned into subtasks. They've been removed from this parent level, and I feel pretty happy with what that did. All right, so that is turning tasks into subtasks. Next up, moving subtasks to a subtask. You're like, what in the world are we talking about here? So I find that sometimes organizations, you can see here, I have 51 subtasks associated with this one task. And let's say my friend Fred, he just kind of started getting overwhelmed, and he created a reference section, and he's trying to find some companies in the area that offer plowing. And so he's kind of created a reference section and put some of the different companies that he's reaching out to find out their quotes. And he has a bunch of action items in here as well, a bunch of things that he's doing to try to facilitate this. Now, this is starting to get overwhelming. It almost could warrant its own project, but for one reason or another, he wants all these to be subtasks. So sometimes when it starts getting super messy, there's a little trick that we can use to kind of clean this up. So let me first of all take this winter wave plowing and put it to the top. And so what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to create um, a new task, subtask here, and I'm going to call it, let's see, I'm going to call it vendors not approved, right? Vendors not approved. So let's assume that all these tasks here were not approved, and I want to clean it up because this is getting overwhelming over here. And even if I open it up here, I can see it's getting overwhelming. Just another tip that's not written down here, but if you go ahead and filter um, your project by to just show incomplete tasks, then it will also, in this view here, when you use the down drop, it'll hide all of those other tasks that were marked as complete, which can be super helpful. That said, it does not hide them in this view. I hope that maybe someday Asana will allow us to be able to hide in this view in the detail pane, but for now we can't. So what are we going to do? So here's what we're going to do instead. So I'm going to actually turn that filter back off. And I've already created a task called vendors not approved, and maybe I'll do it all in caps, vendors not approved. Now watch this. I'm going to go ahead and highlight or select all of the tasks, subtasks that I want to move over here to vendors not approved. And I'm going to do really the same thing that we've done before. I'm going to come in here and convert these to a subtask and say vendors not approved. What this does is it cleans up the space so that when I'm, popping into this project, I no longer need to see all of those subtasks that are like, gumming up the works. I could theoretically create another one over here as well that says old action items, right? Old action items. And then I can come in here and maybe drag that to the top. And now I can, over on this side, now I can't highlight, I can highlight a number of subtasks over here, but you'll notice I don't have the ability to move them in bulk. So I have to do it by selecting the down drop here. Now I can go ahead and highlight all of these tasks that maybe I just don't want to see anymore for one reason or another. And I just highlighted those that have been marked as complete. Now, Asana, for one reason or another, is giving me a little bit of, it's taking some time there. I have no idea why. I'm not going to go ahead and do it again, but pretty much I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to find that three dots and search for the old action items task, and then I'll be able to very quickly and easily move them into there. All right, so that's how we move tasks to a subtasks. Next up, quickly assign dates to subtasks. This is just kind of a cool thing that you can use in the Gantt view. You can do this not just with subtasks, but parent tasks. So here's my post article to the company blog, the one that we saw earlier. And let's say I want to establish a date range for all these subtasks. Now, I could come in here. I could see the due date is January 31st. So I can say, when do I want to identify the blog topic? And I can come in here and say, well, if it's 31st, I probably should start that today. And then I can go into the next one and say, that one should probably be done by the 22nd. Now, that's a little cumbersome. So one cool feature with the new Gantt view is you can go into that Gantt view and kind of pull it out by days. And now here's my post article, the company blog. I can see that it's due on the 31st right here. And then here's all my subtasks, right? So now what I can do very quickly is just using the January to February, using this horizontal date range, you notice that when I mouse over one of the tasks, identify the blog, for instance, it turns into the plus sign. So now I can very quickly just literally click plus right here and plus right here, here, and then I'm going to write the blog content is due that day. And you notice I'm just super, super quick able to establish due dates for all of those tasks, right? So very, 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 very quick and easy. Then, of course, if I want to, I can like spread them out. If I want to be like, well, I want these ones that have a 2 day date range to start to end. And so it just helped me very, very quickly process all of the tasks associated with this parent task for that subtask. Okay, very, very nice feature to be able to do that. Next one, add subtasks to a section. Like, what are you talking about? Well, sometimes there's use cases where even though you have a series of subtasks, you want them to show up in this main project as well. For example, I have a project in my own personal Asana workspace that's called health, right? It's just where I'm processing some of the different things related to my health. Now, some people don't know this, but I no longer have a thyroid. I had thyroid cancer a couple few years ago, and I had to have it removed. So I have ongoing follow-up to make sure that the cancer that I had does not recur. So what I have done in my own personal space here is I have a section that just says follow up. And I have created a task called thyroid cancer follow up. I have my doctor's name in there. I have some of the history of some of the tests and various things inside as subtasks. And then I have these action items, various things that I want to do. I just will always need to follow up for the rest of my life to make sure that that cancer does not recur. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to create in this scenario, if most of the project is actually a reference oriented project, I still want to see all the action items associated with, for instance, my cancer follow-up or maybe my eyeglasses. You see I wear glasses and I have a warranty I want to follow up on at some point in time. So what I've done is I've created a simple rule in here that says, hey, when I assign a subtask or a task to myself, go ahead and move it over here into the upcoming action items. Even though it's a subtask, I can see them all here. Just kind of a nice feature. So let me go ahead and I'm going to take this one and assign it to me and this one and assign it to me. I'll do the same thing over here with these tasks assigned to me and assigned to me. So now if I wanted to, again, if this whole project, which I didn't mean to mark that was done, if this whole project was just associated with, my health follow-up, I can quickly and easily see all of the upcoming action items that I have. And if I have dates, of course, I can sort it by due date. I can filter that to just filter out the incomplete tasks. So ironically, check frames for damage based on my warranty That's sitting in here as an upcoming action item, but it's actually a subtask down here. Just a kind of a cool way to be able to process information. Similarly, this is getting a little more advanced is, hey, how do we apply rules to subtasks? There are a lot of rules that we can apply to subtasks to kind of streamline work in Asana. But you'll notice that there are a number that don't apply to subtasks. So right here it says tasks that run on tasks and subtasks. But then you'll see like the due date is approaching trigger is kind of grayed out. So for one reason or another, Asana is saying we can't apply this to subtasks, or if the task is overdue. Like if a subtask is overdue, maybe I need someone to be pinged. Maybe someone needs to be notified in one way or another. But I can't do that at the subtask level. So the trick is, or the hack, is to actually move those subtasks to a different project, right? And create them as parent level tasks. Now, I can move them into the same project, like all of these tasks here, according to Asana, are both subtasks and primary or first level tasks. So if I had the rule inside this project, then it would now work for these tasks because they live here. But the other thing that I could do is I can also take those tasks. So, renew master PM certification is my task. Here's a subtask. Now, if I want to, I can select that subtask and click the three dots and add it to a project. And I just created a fun project called Subtasks Can Do It Too, right? So now because I've multi-homed this subtask over here into a brand new project, now when I create that rule, I've created a rule that basically says, hey, if the due date is 3 days beforehand, then to go ahead and create a comment in Asana to the assignee to let them know they have 3 days to finish up, or to even send them an email, right? Send an email. So now have been able to utilize a rule that I couldn't use before because I went ahead and multi-homed the subtask. That is, I linked that subtask to another project so that I can access it. Similarly, a lot of times people get frustrated because we can't always see tasks that are due at the calendar level. So, for example, if I come over here to the post article to the company blog and this identify blog, and I make that due today, this subtask, and then I jump over to the calendar, it's not showing up right here. I can't see it because Asana doesn't actually show us in the calendar view, at least as of the time of this video, doesn't show us those tasks. So what's the trick? The trick is to either, let's just open this back up, we can multi-home it to the same project like I did over here. So even though these are subtasks, if I give all of these a due date, let's say of the 24th, now I can actually see them on the calendar. They're all showing up here on the 24th. The next option is to multi-home them to another project, similar to what we have done here, this Renew Master PM certification. You'll see that if I give this one a due date of the 21st, it won't show up here, but if I jump back over to that other project and look at the calendar view, there it is right there. And then, of course, if you're looking at your My Tasks view right up here, subtasks will always show up in the calendar view. And then finally, if you create a custom search and there are subtasks included in that search and you look at or view that search by the calendar view, you will see it as well. Okay, those are some kind of tips and tricks and hacks and fun things that you can do with Subtasks. I hope you found this meaningful and helpful. If there's anything that you feel like I can do to help you streamline your work, train your team so that everyone is kind of on the same playing field, or if you would like me to help you with implementing rules or automations or just helping you streamline workflows, of course, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd love to start a conversation. Thank you so much for watching. Have a fabulous day. Bye now.